Moving on to our next story. This is from The Hill. Obama warns of challenge in tracking lone wolf terrorists. They're still going with this narrative that these two boys were lone wolves, that there was no connection to the government whatsoever, even though we've got government connections up the wazoo, CIA and FBI. But hey, we're just conspiracy theorists looking at the news and watching the FBI, who's done this countless times before. This is from Obama. One of the dangers we now face are self-radicalized individuals who are already here in the U.S. and on welfare, and in some cases may not be part of any network, Obama said in a White House press conference on Tuesday. Those, in some ways, are more difficult to prevent. Republicans led by Lindsey Graham have been crowing about the U.S. intelligence failures, saying incidents like the Benghazi incident and the Boston Marathon show that little progress has been made with 9/11. And basically, Obama and Lindsey Graham said this: if Benghazi is not an example of system failure before, during, and after the attack, what would be? If Boston is not an example of a pre-9/11 stovepiping mentality, what would be? And Obama said the FBI and Department of Homeland Security thoroughly investigated tips from Russian officials on one of the Boston bombing suspects, but there are limits to how far agencies can go based on such limited intelligence. Right, you know, after the Patriot Act, I mean, what else is there unless we all walk around naked with brain chips stuck in us so the government officials can read our thoughts. Boston bombers during shootout. We didn't do it. Audio feeds suspicions brothers may have been set up. This is from Paul Joseph Watson. Although by no means clear, the words appear to be shouted by the suspects as they come under police gunfire. And we are going to go to that video right now. It's been enhanced, and you can actually hear what they're saying, and it's got subtitles. So here it is. Wow, there you go. Chill out, chill out. We didn't do it. We didn't do it. Hey, officer. So that just adds more confusion to the story. A Facebook post attributed to Tsarnaev, although not authenticated, reads, "This will be the last message before police get me. I've never done it. They set me up. Father, please forgive me. I'm sorry it's come to this." His mother, Zubeded, was saying her sons are innocent, telling it's all lies and hypocrisy. And remember, she was the first person to come out and say, hey, these guys are being investigated by the FBI. The FBI interviewed me. And it turns out, well, they had the mother and the older son, Tamerlan, on terrorist watch lists. The Russian government was asking the U.S. government to investigate Tamerlan because he was going to Russia under an assumed name, which you can't do unless you're in some sort of, you have some sort of street cred in the spy agencies. Going back to this article from Paul Joseph Watson, Boston bombers during shootout, we didn't do it. It talks about Tamerlan saying that they're being investigated. His mom was saying they're being investigated by the FBI. His aunt claims the footage of the naked man being arrested was her nephew. Eyewitnesses are saying that the police ran over Tamerlan, not his brother, as they were saying. And despite the FBI showing the images of only two boys with black backpacks, one of which was actually gray, there's numerous pictures of other people with black backpacks. And on top of this, there's the FBI investigations. There's the Russian government asking us to investigate the guy. There's the CIA connections, all this stuff. There's bodies appearing in rivers. Moving on to a Breitbart article, Pentagon taps anti-Christian extremists for religious tolerance policy. This is from Mikey Weinstein. Today we face an incredibly well-funded gangs of fundamentalist Christian monsters who terrorize their fellow Americans by forcing their weaponized and twisted version of Christianity upon their helpless subordinates in a nation of armed forces. Now, you could just replace Christian with Jews and you'd be talking 1930s Germany with that type of writing. But hey, the Christians are the hate mongers. That's not hate speech at all, according to his terms. Mikey Weinstein is the founder of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. In a column he wrote for the Huffington Post, he decrees what he calls virulent religious oppression perpetrated by conservative Christians, who he refers to as monstrosities, pitiable, unconstitutional carpetbaggers, comparing them to bigots in the Deep South during the Civil Rights era. He also endorses the Southern Poverty Law Center and who publishes a list of hate groups, which include the Tea Party, among other Christian organizations, and they always put that aside, next to the KKK. According to Weinstein, We should, as a nation, effusively applaud Lieutenant Colonel Rich, who we talked about yesterday, who came out. We had an article, Christian identity groups are extremists, saying we as a nation must venture further than Rich's recommendation, saying we must vigorously support the continuing efforts to expose pathologically anti-gay, Islamophobic, and rabid, intolerant agitators for what they are, die-hard enemies of the United States Constitution. Monsters, one and all. Wow, but that's not hate speech, you know.